in these recent times. Just a minute.
Yeah.
So as you are well aware, we keep conducting with our, we keep connecting with our audiences every month and offer something very new and interesting. So our previous webinars on strategy to results and being a talent multiplier have been very successful in driving home some very pertinent tips in the corporate scenario. So today we bring to you a marriage of sorts that not only builds the foundation of any relationship, be it personal or official or otherwise, but goes miles ahead in cementing everlasting relationships. Especially so when the world, is moving increasingly online more than ever before, and where communication happens mostly in the virtual world, as it is happening now, where people don't meet up and, most importantly, cannot feel the emotional connect, the emotional state and the joy of connecting with one another. So emotional intelligence, as you all know, is no longer a new term. It has a pivotal role in communication, and without it, our conversations, they become mere words and, without feelings. And conversational intelligence, on the other hand, I feel it lends the body and the muscle to our conversations to thrive and become truly meaningful. So without much delay, I welcome Yogesh sir and Ravi to share their insights and experiences regarding this great Jugalbandi, I would call it, EI meets CI. Floor is open.
So thank you, Harini. We love your energy and the way you introduce every session. And thanks for setting the stage for all of us. So team, many of you, I know you personally, so you know how much passionate I am about emotional intelligence. And whenever there's an opportunity, I want to talk about this, because even despite so much of research, there is still a lot of scope that a lot of people are not fully aware of how much they can use EI in both their personal and professional life. And today with me, Ravi, and Ravi also you may know, have known, has been as a group or like how, So I'll just Harini, make you also as a co-host, so you can just, or maybe I'll make Karthik as the co-host, and so in case there is any background noise, he can just mute them. Yeah, so let me make him the co-host. So Karthik, you can take care in case there is any background noise. Yeah, you can see Amit's unmuted and noise in the background. So yeah. So today, the way, I mean, when we do most of our programs, we always want to make it as interactive as possible. So the way we will run today's session is also that there's a lot of power in sharing some real life situations, stories, and then you guys can see through those stories your life. Yeah, maybe it may sometimes resonate directly, sometimes some parts of it. And then in the whole story, me and Ravi would have conversation that would bring in the research or the framework. And also we have started this whole thing of leadership chaska, in which there is a WhatsApp group which you will get added if you like. And for next 1 month, me and Ravi can answer any questions as you apply the learning from today's webinar. So it is not a GAN session, but it is something that you can practically go and try this out. Yeah. So Ravi, all set. We'll start with our
sure.
Four characters. Right. Govind, Radha, and Jack and Mary. Yeah. So these are the two couples, and Jack and Mary are expat in India. They are based out of Hyderabad for a multinational, and Govind works for an IT company, and Radha is his wife, and this is their anniversary. And both Radha and Govind are now going to a finest restaurant in Hyderabad, and it is like 10:15, and the restaurant closes around 10:45. So they reach the restaurant, and it's in the first floor. So Radha and Govind are climbing the restaurant, and Jack and Mary also are entering the restaurant, but they actually come by the elevator. And just about 30 seconds before Jack and Mary reach the counter, before before Radha and Govind, and the waiter says that, and they can also visibly see the restaurant is full. There's only one table which is available, and since Jack and Mary had reached the table first, the waiter says that, give me 5 minutes, I'll just set up the table for you. And Jack and Mary are seeing Radha, and Radha is very upset with Govind now because she was really looking forward to this anniversary dinner, and it's already 10:15. So Radha says to Govind that if you had not picked that conference call on the way, we would have been here on time and we could have had a great dinner. And every time we go out, you have this habit of picking your call. Now, the question to all of you is that where is this conversation of Radha coming for Govind? Why do you think Radha said this to Govind? And why did even Radha get upset with this not getting the table on in the restaurants? Anybody?
Guys, we all have had to be in the shoes of Radha or face Radhas in our life, right? Especially you don't want to do that. Reminds me of that ad, right? Where he is actually doing something over the phone and comes and talks to his wife, and the wife just goes away. Or talks to his girlfriend and the girlfriend goes away. Because if he could do that on the phone, he could have been here on time, right? So think about it.
Any thoughts why did Radha? Yeah, very true, Ravi. So any thought why Radha became so upset, and where is this coming from?
I think Radha is seeking a little undivided attention at this point of time, which she's not getting, and probably she's now, taking it out that we didn't get the table. So the real pinch is not getting undivided attention on this special day from the husband.
Very nice.
Absolutely. And she has
Yeah,
all the
please.
right to do it, no?
Yeah, Damini.
I also feel it's from her past experiences that she hasn't had the best experiences in the past, because of which now it's all come together and this is how she's reacting.
Very
I
nice.
also feel that maybe as an individual, she's very meticulous about things. And maybe repeated occurrences like this have happened in the past, and it always gets her agitated. Maybe that.
Right.
Also, a simple explanation could be that Radha is hungry, really hungry. She's eaten already. And she's not, so it's very logical for her to get angry because her hunger is not getting satisfied.
Padma sir is like, let's keep it simple. She's hungry.
She's hungry, absolutely. Right. So
Yeah,
much.
but I think it's more of an emotional pinch somewhere rather than, not getting the table or anything else. But I think it's that emotional thing which is pinching her more.
Yes.
Hunger is a very important thing. What Padma brought about.
Yes.
Like he does, in his own, Pearl's ways of genius when made known look very simple.
Yes.
What he brought about is a very important thing, because hunger in itself creates a change in the hormonal balance. And I have learned this very recently, having been diagnosed of, diabetes. So, when you kind of feel hungry, you're all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
One point I was thinking, maybe missing that moment, right? I think, we all try to kind of live for that moment, but when the moment comes again, you miss it, right? I think there's nothing called multitasking in life. We all live with an assumption that there is multitasking, but we miss on real crucial moments, I think.
Brilliant. I think that's a great one. The moments that make life, right, Vikrant?
Yes. Yeah, I think Nana, yeah. So
hi everyone.
Yeah. So if you look at the way, so there is a big play of feelings and emotions here. Yeah. So if you see the way Radha reacted. So I'm going to show you one slide which I think some of you are, I know, facilitators. You must have read about this. Some of you would have gone through programs. So just to quickly give you a visual glimpse of how our brain works from an emotion point of view. So if you see the limbic system here is where all our experiences of the past is saved. So essentially the 4 feelings that we have, which is sad, glad, mad, scared, is all saved here. And what we do is that we process our emotions from this seat. Now, if we just process the emotion from our past experiences, then what Radha did is that she essentially, looked at the past and looked at the way Govind has always been, doing, and this was a response. But now, if she was to essentially, connect the limbic system with rational brain, which means take a pause and connect, which is also called as prefrontal cortex, she can actually do a little different response, which could be more rational. And as we go along in the journey today, we'll start unraveling that. So this webinar is to mostly give you a idea about how do you process. It's not like a complete workshop that we usually do, but to give you enough so that when you go back, you can start reflecting yourself. You can talk to me and Ravi in the whole month. So now, as Mary is seeing Radha and Govind, Mary says to Jack that, "Hey Jack, we have been married 30 years, and incidentally, it is Jack and Mary's anniversary as well." And Mary says that, Jack, we have been married so many years, and I see this young couple, and I visibly could see that this, this wife or maybe whoever it is, she's or girlfriend, she is a little upset with this boy, and can we offer our table to them? And Jack says that, yeah, I'm okay with that. But only thing is, we'll spend 10 minutes with them. We're an expat here in Hyderabad. Just maybe have a chat with them and then leave and maybe go home and have cereal or whatever we have at home. So Ravi, what happened? Like, how did this, Mary spoke to Jack about this? Where did this come from? What do you think about this observation about Mary and sharing with Jack?
So if you were to kind of look at this entire play that is unfolding in front of us, it has two sets of people. One set of people, kind of dividing the world, if I were to use this term, into a certain set of people who have maturity haves, and the other set which is probably dealing with maturity have-nots, right? That's the way I would probably look at it if I were to look at it from a expertise point of view, right? But expertise is not something that comes to mind when we are dealing with situations which are very emotional or very personal in nature, because it is not okay. All right. So sorry, there was a pop-up from Pooja.
Oh, no, she was, I think somebody's having little, less audio, but I think we are all able to hear very clearly. So it could be there.
Yes.
All right.
So
right.
please.
I have been experiencing a lot of audio issues of late, so I was.
No, this is perfect. We can hear very clearly.
Yeah. So what is happening here is that if you look at Radha, I mean, obviously she is going through a significant amount of, she's upset, right? So if you go by your, she's operating more from a limbic system. She is looking at the entire situation as if from a position of scarcity, and probably the other couple is looking at this position from a position, at the entire situation from a position of abundance. Now, this sense of abundance and scarcity is not in what the situation is offering you. There are two ways of dealing with it. One is the fact that Jack and Mary do have a table, and the other is that Govind and Radha do not have a table. So it's not about having a table or not having a table which is prompting it. Because there are many situations in life where on your most important days, the Murphy's Law takes over. If it has to go wrong, it will go wrong on that day, if not on any other day, and when it goes wrong on that special day, you have a situation normal, all fouled of snafu kind of a thing. You are, and that's why, I mean, sometimes, the most nervous person in a marriage is either the dulha or the dulhan, right? Because so many things possibly can, go topsy-turvy and things like that. So if you were to look at it, how do you deal with these situations? What do you bring to it? And what do you bring to it is not what do you bring to it on that day. Like I think Vikrant talked about, life is made up of moments. How have you dealt with similar moments in the past?
Yes.
How have you developed the muscle for those moments? So probably Radha has always had an opportunity of Govind being a very patient listener. What marks their relationship is her ability to openly talk about her emotions, a lot of catharsis. And this moment is no different. And probably she is just doing the same. But because this is probably happening in a restaurant, there are other people watching, and therefore Yogesh and I are talking about it. So, but what else is happening in her life we don't know? How has she dealt with those moments we don't know? And they have created certain neural pathways, if you may like, of how she deals with similar realities. The situation is unfolding in front of her. She has various options. She has chosen this option. She could have chosen other options as well. And that is my question to you. Do you think she could have chosen other options? Were there other options available to Radha? I'm not trying to accuse her. I'm not trying to pontificate her. I'm not trying to value judge her. I'm just trying to say that there are other options. And those options impact Radha more than they impact anybody else. It is about her well-being, right, than anybody else. I'm not talking about social propriety, norm. I'm not talking from that position of, say, that Victorian prudery. You have to be nice in front of people with a mask. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that it impacts her on a special day. She's not able to let go of the pressure of this moment and get back equilibrium. So going back to what Dr. Kavi would have said in the 1980s, you carry the weather in your pocket. Right? She had the weather in her pocket.
Yeah. So Ravi, as
use a hot towel.
So as Mary was thinking, and she got Jack's okay for giving the table, and she was just going to talk to Radha about it. So Govind says to Radha, and this is what Govind says to Radha, that hey Radha, I know that I should not have picked the call on the way, but I think this was a call from the customer, which was the final call after we submitted the large RFP, which we've been working for last 3 weeks. And this was a final call, and it's a very large deal. And if we win this deal, I will have a huge incentive that will come in, and we could do something better for ourselves. And that is the reason I picked the call. And then as Radha is listening to this that Govind shared, suddenly she realizes that maybe she should not have said what she said to Govind. And she says that, now I get it why you picked the call, but now, the restaurant is only one table. So I know in Hyderabad, there is an Aero Plaza that just opened up recently. So do you think we can go to the airport? We'll have a nice drive, and I love California Burrito, which is an outlet there, and we can come back late night and have a great time. And Govind obviously accepts this offer because he says, good, I think I love driving and we can have a great time. So now the question again, and me and Ravi has for all of you, is that where did Govind's response come from? And what happened after that response to Radha?
It came from a very logical and rational thinking, whereby he kind of didn't react back to what Radha said, but he chose to respond by giving a very logical explanation, which probably Radha caught faster. Yes. Otherwise, they would have continued, reacting to each other's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, do you think this capacity that Govind has built, is it possible for all of us to also develop as we kind of look at this limbic system and the prefrontal cortex?
Yes, absolutely. with a lot of practice, but yes, it's absolutely doable.
Yeah.
This is a very common, allow me to come in here.
Yes.
When we talk about emotional intelligence, when we talk about conversational intelligence, and I know I'm speaking, I'm speaking with a lot of people who are extremely knowledgeable and have been speaking on people like Padma and Narcisa, etc., amongst others here. One of the things that has kind of come to bear upon us is that this requires a lot of practice, right? This is up there. This is mindfulness. This is conversational intelligence. This is, acceptance and commitment therapy. You need training in CBT. The point is, all of that is true, but it is equally true that people have emotions. All of us have a prefrontal cortex. All of us have a limbic system, and all of us are endowed with the power of doing something with it. Very simple, right? If you were to look at any time that we are engaged in a conversation like that, one good way to ask ourselves would be, why now? Look at the power of these two words. Why now? Why am I feeling the way I am feeling? And why am I feeling this way now? Of course, when you ask yourself, why are you feeling the way you're feeling, you'll obviously get to different things, right? And why now? And now prompts to you a set of options and choices that will come to you. Can this now be various nows that I have dealt in the past? Can these nows be in the future as well? Right. And if you try to keep it simple and develop certain, I would, forgive me for using a flippant term, use some of these life hacks, if you like, right? It allows you to regain control over the moment. Scientifically, we can talk till this webinar ends. What will happen? You will have a time to create a hiatus between the stimulus and the response. You'll create a different neural pathway. But that understanding is knowledge. That understanding is not being.
I just want to add something. Ravi,
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes, in an emotional situation, giving a response from the logical perspective can be at cross purposes. As we know, in transaction analysis, that kind of a cross purpose communication, like somebody is emotional, somebody is disturbed and is acting from an emotional plane. At that time, if you try a logical response, it's going to, kind of aggravate the situation further. So to a great extent, as you rightly pointed out, this life hack, I love that term that you said. An intelligent Govind would probably say, hey, here is a ice cream vending machine. Why don't we make up an ice cream? And then if he had explained that I had this RFP and things like that, I think it may sit better.
Yeah. And if you see our, when we carry a gift on a special occasion, when we go to somebody's house, we try to carry something with us because that is the mood enhancer. And carrying gifts is older than study on emotional intelligence, no? So we don't know whose house we are going, what are we going to get. Amongst people like us in my community, in the Bengali community, who love having a sweet at any given point in time, they would carry. If you are not carrying mishti to somebody's house,
yes,
means, there is definitely something wrong with you. There are very few instances that you don't carry. And you go to a Rajasthani household, you go to a Tamil household, every place there is this, and I find it so interesting that most of these places serve sweet. Right? Have you thought about it? Sweet is a natural serotonin producer. As soon as you have more sweet,
Yes.
your mood gets enhanced. I mean, people
Yes.
take a lot of chocolates when they are going through a, we all have done that in our teenagers, haven't we?
Yes.
Right? So it helps you to overcome those, frosty situations. So similarly, when you are entering a household, they give you a sweet, they give you a lassi, irrespective of whatever are your sugar levels, whether you are on insulin or not, it allows you to come to a level of, you can't remain angry.
Yes.
Right? You can't remain angry because that's the mood enhancer.
So Ravi, these are some very interesting, tips that you're giving to people to, look at their own anniversaries and see how, if something like this happens, they can manage that so beautifully. Or if they meet you and me, this audience can bring some sweets along with them, is what I'm also.
Absolutely. See, I mean, and different cultures have different mood enhancers.
Yes, yes.
Some places you carry a champagne, in other places you carry a, sharing the fireplace or something else, you carry a cake or you carry whatever you carry.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and then they have different metaphors for this.
Yeah.
But I would not even give so much of emphasis on the object that they are carrying.
Yes.
Right? It could be a fruit, it could be anything.
Yes.
The point is, that becomes the topic of conversation. अरे आप क्यों लेके आए इसको यार?
Yes, yes.
इसकी क्या जरूरत थी? And किसकी जरूरत थी? इसके बिना ये बातचीत शुरू ही नहीं होती थी.
Yes, yes.
Right. इसकी जरूरत थी. So that social, there is a certain science behind these customs.
Yes, yes.
That we tend to kind of sometimes get lost in the functionality of things. No?
Yes, yes.
That's my take on it. I mean, I might be naive.
So as Ravi, as Govind, shares this, and I'm continuing with Govind and Radha. So Radha is now supercharged by going to the airport, and as they were to turn around to move to the airport, Mary goes and meets Radha and says, Radha, I saw you both dressed up really well. Looks like there is a special occasion. So Radha says to Mary that, yeah, today is our anniversary. And then Mary says to Jack that I think our guest was right. I think they have a special occasion today. So, Radha, we want to offer that single table that is available to you because we're married for 30 years and we like both of you to take that table and we are okay with that. And then Radha says to Mary that, no, I think we have made a plans to go to the airport and we would maybe possibly come over this place some other time. Now, the question to all of you is that what happened in this whole conversation? Like now you can see there is so many options that are now available, like there's table for Radha, there's airport option. Jack and Mary are anyway great to go back with the same happy mood. So what do you think happened in the whole thing? If you look at emotional intelligence and conversation intelligence. So Judith Glaser is the person who has done phenomenal research in this space. There is a very nice book called Conversation Intelligence. I think all of you should take a look at it. There are fantastic suggestions that that are there. Yeah. So I think, Ravi, what do you think has happened in this whole process?
Yogesh, if you could allow me the right to share, maybe, and I could also use this a little bit of a visual to kind of take.
Sure.
Some of you who do this for a living, like Padma sir and others, would probably know this already, but
yes,
it's never too bad to kind of take this and bring this to you.
Yes, yes.
So if you see, and let me go full scale now.
Yes, yes.
All right. So if you see, there are the work of Judith is, and she passed away a couple of years ago. So it was a great loss, very young. I mean, so if you look at it, when Radha had that conversation, you can actually map the entire story on this.
Yes, yes.
When Radha had that conversation, She was trying to protect her time, protect her turf, demand the fact that, you know what, this day is for us, this day is for me, and I want you to give me, somebody talked about that undivided attention, right? So, and this resistor space goes and ignites something which is very, very thousands of years, very, very animalistic in us, the reptilian brain. And therefore she kind of came across and gave that outburst. Then comes, Govind saying, I was busy, I was doing this. Look at this, and it's beginning to pan off, right? She is kind of moving to a little more of a skeptical position to see, okay, yes, but then could you have done something else? And then she moves into a state where you say like, okay, she says she's being put that thought process that we will go to that airport thing. It's now more about seeing how it is going to pan out. It is waiting with a lot of close-ended questions. It hasn't. It's not full. You didn't do it today. What I'm trying to put across to you is this sweep from I to we, this swing, takes significant amount of time. Okay? And I'm not trying to say that it cannot happen quickly. It can happen quickly, but good that it doesn't happen quickly, because if it does keep on happening in you very quickly, there could be other issues that we could end up facing. Right? Now, also what is happening is there are three kinds of conversations taking place in this entire story. First conversation, very informative conversation. The waiter comes and says, or the restaurateur comes and says, there's only one table. Sharing of information, right? The second one from Radha, well, you should have done it, you didn't do it, this is the reason it is happening, accept your fault. Very positional conversation. And it is gotten back by another positional conversation from Govind, right? Which is, you know what, I was trying to do this, and therefore I have the legitimate reason of not being here. So logic versus logic. That is what Padma sir was talking about, is where we are, is the level 2, right? Without acknowledging the emotions that Radha is experiencing. What is happening in the third conversation between Mary and Radha is a lot of dialogue. She says, hey, what is it that you guys are going through? She thought that it was this, but then she doesn't say that. She doesn't begin with a close-ended question. Is it your wedding anniversary? No presuppositions. Look at it. What does she say? You are so beautifully dressed. This is what I see you to be, right? And then she kind of comes back and says, yes, this is a special day for us. And it is our wedding anniversary. Very exploratory, right? Now, for her to reach this stage, she is operating from a very different part of her brain. And this conversation requires, she has made her choices. Her choices are, I don't want to add to the friction or the fracas that I saw. I want to come across as somebody who wants to deal with it or help these guys tide over. Or just be interested in them, right? Out of genuine curiosity. So there are different things, there are different levels of conversation at play. And this is what life is. Life is beyond these models, guys. These models are crutches, if I may say in that way, which allows us to explain complex scenarios, right? But life, you can see there is a Govind and Radha talking at one level, there's a restaurant guy talking at another level, and at the same time, there is a Mary who's coming in at the third level. So 3 layers of conversation and 3 levels of conversational intelligence are existing simultaneously in the same time frame of, say, 10 to 20 minutes. And this happens in our meetings as well. Somebody gives us an information. Hey, the client has moved up the deadlines, needs this to be delivered a week earlier. Information. How can we do this? We had told the client, we have agreed on the SOW. This has been done, right? And that is level 2, reason versus reason, right? Now there could be, and then comes in the good leader from wherever he comes, not necessarily hierarchical, says, let's try and understand, why is the client asking us to do this? Where did this come from? Would it be possible for us to have a conversation with the client before we start barking up the trees? Right? So now that is the entire frame. As I told you, so even in this meeting, 3 levels of conversation: information, positioning, jostling for space, trying to convince each other, right? And 3rd level, discovery, dialogue, a lot of that, which is partnering, right? From protection to partnering. That's the journey, from I to we. And that's the story of leadership as well. If you look at most organizations, and sorry, Yogesh, if I'm just taking this a little further.
No, this is perfect. I think they're perfect. Yeah.
There are many of us, and there is this research by Logan and others on tribal leadership, if you want to reference that, who talk about that almost 60 to 70% of organizations are filled with leaders who say, I am great. There are fewer organizations, almost 22%, who say we are great. When we say we are great, it is a position where it's one level higher than I am great. But then we means my department is great. We are great versus others are not. I am great versus you are not. The 3rd level, which is the partnering level, is we all are great. Right? Now that is only 2% of leaders. And mark you, why conversational intelligence is so critical for us today. Emotional intelligence is inside you. No, it is happening, it is not happening. Sometimes gets expressed, sometimes doesn't get expressed. But in these present times, only conversations are what we have with people, because we are not in the same meet space. And it's MEET meet space as well as MEAT meet space. We are not sharing, we are not shaking hands. So, we are not in the same meet space anymore. So if it is that kind of a thing, then words are all that we have to give or take, whatever you want to take away, right? Unlike Bryan Adams, right? So the thing is, partnering becomes very critical, right? It becomes the order of the day. And you can do it with your choice of words. But choice of words won't come. It's not phony conversation. It's not making faces to meet faces. You can't wear a mask and you are conversationally intelligent for next 30 minutes. After that, you will be somebody else. Right? So the power of that moment lies in the previous moments that you have won. Right? And that is where the EI part comes in. Yes. How have you dealt with your emotions? Gets operationalized by conversational intelligence. How the world sees you, perceives you, allows you to configure you or find you out as a leader. Right?
So Ravi, you are saying that while we started with Govind and Radha as a personal situation, but you are saying from a leadership angle, it can have a very, very big impact if people were to consider both EI and CI together.
I mean, let's ask the group here, na, Yogesh.
Yeah.
Who is the leader amongst this pack that you are seeing? Who's demonstrating leadership behavior? Harry, John, Govind, Radha. Who looks like an operational guy? Who looks like a real strategic guy? Who looks like an empathetic leader? A resonant leader, as Boyatis would call him or call her.
Narne, you are on mute. If you can unmute and then speak, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know.
No, I think Narne was wanting to share something. And
No. I was just having a side conversation. One of my team member called. Sorry.
Okay. Sure, no problem.
So we move on.
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah. So here is Radha, and they go and Govind. They they go to the airport to have those delicious burritos, and while they're having it, Radha watches this Air Asia flight, take off, and it just clicks her. I mean, she says, "Govind, how about a vacation? I mean, deal is through. So can we go on a vacation together?" Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Harini, I think the mood between Radha and Govind has substantially changed where
yes.
I think Radha is getting a lot of ideas of even going on a vacation in the Air Asia flight actually. Yeah.
Thank God it was not Lufthansa, it was Air Asia that she saw picking up. I mean, otherwise, I'm just on the lighter side because the costs of the entire, poor Govind, he would have had to spend.
No, Radha is full of empathy at the moment.
Yeah, full of empathy. Air Asia bhi chalega. So that's okay.
Yes. Good. Very nice. So I think now, Ravi, I think we have had this whole nice setup, to kind of drive our conversation using this story of Govind, Radha, and Jack and Mary. So for the next maybe half an hour or so, I would just like to open up, for the audience to ask as many questions on emotional intelligence, on conversational intelligence, because we really want to give them, so whatever they have as questions. Yes. Sorry, you want to ask anything? Yeah.
Is unsure.
Yeah. So we can open up for, I think people can open their cameras also if they like and ask any question that you are possibly having, that how do you manage this, or anything that you have, because both me and Ravi would like to make it more to the context of your question rather than, so we don't want to do a download of, like, we wanted to trigger certain thoughts in your minds and now have a conversation for the rest of the webinar time, because this was more to set it up for you guys and give you enough ideas so that you get excited about this topic and you start going and researching yourself and connecting with us on the Leadership Chaska group for any queries. But that will happen over a month period. But then anybody can ask any questions that you may have, or any thoughts, any reflections. Yeah, Padma, please.
Yeah, so my question is, there is a presupposition that both the stakeholders involved in this conversation are focused on getting to a convergent, desirable future. And that is the reason why even when one of the stakeholders is temporarily off balance, a little bit of intelligent interventions from the other party brings both parties to a convergence. This is well and good. In many cases, this is how things happen. But there are also instances where the two people in the conversation may be at cross purposes, not necessarily aligned to the reaching of a common goal. Where there is divergence as far as the outcome is concerned, how does one use conversational intelligence to make sure that the dissonance is dissolved and we reach towards something that is transformational?
Right.
Yeah, I think Yogesh, you want to take
No, you can continue. I was just saying that very good question actually.
Yeah. So I think that is, I mean, and this is what I typically would call a practitioner question, okay? Because this is what we face as practitioners. So one of the things that I would strongly urge is to set a preamble for the conversation. And I have found it to be useful that way, that what do I want to do in this conversation, right? Many times, and it is important to come in with your presence, with your facilitative presence, and pause and say, hey, I think we are trying to convince each other. We need to pause and just see what is it that we want to talk. What is the position that we are taking? And ask one group to probably change the mode. Maybe if they're talking, give them a chart to maybe use or something like that, where they can draw out what they're saying. Now that in itself, in that moment, creates, the change of mode, right? So, okay, let me give you, each one of you, 10 minutes each, think through it. I want 5 bullet points from you. I want 5 bullet points from you. And let's see how does this come through. So that would be the opening overture. And then, or maybe something like a new manager assimilation technique that GE perfected long time ago, right? Where you put one group in one room and another group in another room and say that, what are your expectations? A's expectations from B, B's expectation from A, and then bring the two together for a dialogue. And then set out the norms of the dialogue. Right? Set out the norms. I'm not saying that by setting out the norms, everybody will start doing generative listening and all of that. But at least, what happens when rituals are set out and people start following rituals regularly. You have one dialogue every month, of that kind in the organization, etc. And I have been part of some of those transformation projects where we have seen that after 3-4 dialogues facilitated by the OD guy, the businesses themselves start doing it for them, right? They have their own people trained, who can go and do an NMA for themselves. And this is a very enabling thing, right? So one has to be very clear about what rituals are, what are those indicators, am I able to diagnose correctly, where is this conversation going? And if you are a party in that conversation, and if you are endowed with some of this knowledge, skill, capacity, or habit, you're better off. If you are not, of course, you are leading into a lot of friction. And then we are talking about, by the way, if you look at, we are talking about creating psychologically safe workplaces. Right? That is the way to generate, right?
Yeah. So in fact, Ravi, and I just want to share, yesterday morning, I was, Indra Nooyi, after PepsiCo, she's been spending time writing books and going to different forums. And yesterday I was listening to her speech where she got that Stephen Covey's Principle-Centered Leadership Award. And Padma, I want to narrate this, what she shared. So she said that, when the board was deciding as to who would be the next CEO, Mike White was another, contender for that. And Indra Nooyi and Mike were the two people who were to be finally decide who will be the CEO. And in Pepsi, Indra says that the party of most of this senior executive would be they would do karaoke. So karaoke was one of the ways to celebrate any meeting like this. And Mike used to play piano quite a bit, and Indra used to sing with the piano. So for years together they worked, as peers. And this was a time when the chairman called Indra that you are selected for the next CEO of the company. What Indra did is that she took the next flight to a place where Mike was on vacation. She landed there, and before boarding the flight, she said, Mike, I'm visiting to where you are, and can you pick me up from the airport? And Mike picked up from the airport. First 45 minutes, Indra asked Mike to play the piano, and she sang. And after that 45 minutes, she told Mike that I really need you for the next phase of Pepsi that we are going through. And I can tell you that while I am formally as a CEO, but I think we'll run this Pepsi together. And Mike stayed back. All the decisions that she took, over next couple of years were always with Mike consulting together. And Indra said that if I had not diffused the tension in the first 45 minutes, I don't think Mike would have had that conversation, because Mike had almost decided to put down his paper and move on to some other organization. So a very classic example of how Indra managed EI and CI together. And I was just building on what Ravi just shared, that you could use different modalities to manage. And there is never so when Ravi and I lead programs, and as many facilitators here on the call, we never prescribe a solution. We only tell them that there are multiple options that you can pick up and see which one in that moment will suit. But in this webinar also today, we want to give you lots and lots of options that you can try it for yourself and see how that works for you. But thanks, Padma, for asking this nice question, and an opportunity for me and Ravi to share these instances and modalities. Very nice. Anybody else? I saw Satya also raising his hand. Anybody else?
I have a question actually. I think I'm coming from an organization which is project oriented, and we have different issues and different challenges in the project, which is not regularly happens in a general conversation or general discussion. So my question to both of you, in an organization like this, where there are a lot of uncertainties are there, and a lot of demands from every day, every moment are there. How and there are multiple stakeholders involved. It's not never one-to-one. There are multiple departments, multiple people, different people with different strengths or weaknesses and experiences talking about. So how do you think that as a leader, how this EI and CI can be best used to get the best maximum output of that? Because one of the examples you are giving, most of the times it's one-to-one. But I'm talking about the team setup thing, how it can be very, what are the options available?
Yeah. So, Satya, to be very honest with you, the more the complex the organization, and if I may even use the term, the more the political the organization, the greater the need for these tools. Because if we have an appreciation of these tools, concepts, ability to use them, we will be able to manage what is called as the social systems better. Now, to dejargonize and speak in simple terms, what I mean is, say, for example, you are a emotionally intelligent leader. You are probably going to be okay to be more vulnerable in terms of inviting opinions from others.
Yes.
I want to kind of go ahead and make this change. What is your thought process about it? We are moving from 9 to 6 to 11 to 8, say as working hours, because we seem to be, now we have to kind of lock in more with the EMEA client, or with the Middle East client, or with the European clients, and therefore we have to move this. Now, what is your take on this? Now, how as a leader, Satya, you probably overcome, or you are able to create dialogue between different people? Some people would have very personal issues. Nobody is there to pick up the kid from the creche. Some people would have MBA classes in the evening. Some people would have been newly married. Some people have to take the Mumbai local to get home. And there would be myriad issues which will come forth. And it is your ability to create purposeful dialogues between them and find a way out. In order to do that, you need to have these skills in place, these mindsets in place. When you do not, organizations tend to suffer. What is the alternative? Tell me. Is there an alternative? Especially when you are, say, for example, working with extremely meritorious people, which most organizations want to. They want to hire the best. They want to retain the best. They would have to create a situation where the best think that they can give their best.
And Ravi, also I want to add to this is that, Satya, it is like a journey, when you start creating a culture, like as Ravi said. So if you're vulnerable for a couple of times, people are not anymore hiding any information from you. So they're very upfront about sharing with you what are their concerns, what are their issues, and they don't hold on to that concern till the time you have implemented. Now, if you implement this and then people come and tell you it's too complicated, then you're getting upset because you're committed certain other thing based on what they did not say earlier. Then you go back to them and then they come back and it's a complete mess later on. Now, sometimes you may inherit a culture that the other leader may not have had practiced all this, but there is always, in our experience with me and Ravi working on with organization for so many years, we have seen that once you start, even the turnaround happens very fast. Because the moment people start seeing that, oh, Satya is one leader that I think we can openly talk to him, they start telling the new joinees also, यार यहाँ पे तो बिल्कुल जाके बात करो ना सत्या साहब से, वो सॉल्व कर देंगे. So then what is happening is Satya is getting more and more information from people instead of people hiding, versus the other part is that अरे यहाँ तो कोई सुनता नहीं है, so बोल के फायदा नहीं है. Don't even say in that meeting. Be very quiet. We'll tell them after 3 weeks. Let them suffer. That's the culture that's got building.
Right. Yeah. And to that extent, you know what this is, and why what I want to bring up for you, you create reputations, you create outer realities, right? If you are known to be a resistor, you are perceived as a strong belief guy, not open to influence, right? If you are a co-creator, you are known to transform reality with others in a positive way. So these are perceptions that people have of you. This is what makes your leadership brand. This is what leads to your executive presence. Right? And it is not bereft of conversational intelligence or your ability to deal with the situation. So your inner reality and outer reality are kind of getting juxtaposed side by side all the time. You can see that, right? There is an inner conversation. How can we create new possibilities together? What is the inner conversation? See, at every stage, there is a transformation in an inner conversation from I to we. And this is Judith Glaser's famous work. I mean, she kind of called it the DNA of leadership. Right. And she says, you know what? You are not a leader in any other way. You are a leader the way you speak as a leader. And the way you speak as a leader is the way you process your neural signals. I mean, the way you are able to trust, the way you are able to converge your emotions, the way you are able to channelize that energy, all of that comes into picture here. Right. And it creates perception, Satya. To your point, it creates perceptions. So now when you try to change, let me also take that, you will have to start with something small. Maybe on certain issues, you get feedback from people. And then move to certain things which are bigger. It's like building a muscle, right? When you train on weights, you don't start picking up heavy weights very early. You keep on trying with smaller, and increasing incrementally, and transformation happens.
Yeah, can I add something here?
Yes.
Yeah. See, in conversations especially, listening plays a very, very important role. Yeah. So, as we say, do not react, respond. So here also, you have to listen to connect, not to reject. Yes. That is very important. So listening without being judgmental, being unimposing, non-threatening, and while speaking also, you shouldn't, it shouldn't seem intimidating, because the person backs off. So listening is a key player, I feel. And even, even in difficult conversations, especially, you want to get over with it as soon as possible, or you just want to cut it short. You should have the resistance, you should have the patience to sit through such conversations with an open mind. That happens when you are a good listener. So I feel listening also has a major role to play here. Yeah.
Let me add to what you're saying, Harini. Very important point. When you are trying to protect your turf, you are not giving yourself the chance to listen. You are blocking the listening channels, or we are blocking the listening channels.
Yeah, it's like, you have this I want to be right all the time mentality, I'm right. So I'm stuck with my viewpoint.
I'm trying to protect my turf.
Yeah.
Right? Therefore, I'm trying to see what can selectively synergize with me. And that is when you're moving into a skeptic and a wait and see kind of a zone. Right? But when you move to a co-creator zone, you are in a very generative space. You have quietened your own noise. And let me give you a very business example of this, very salesy example of this. You are selling, say, a Land Rover to a very high net worth individual who has a fleet of cars, right? He came in a Mercedes and now he wants to buy a Land Rover. Which level of conversation are you going to use?
We can take the response from the audience. Yeah, anybody would like to respond?
Imagine which level of conversation are you going to use? Right? Which level of conversation is Satya? You can think about it, right? I mean, this is a very high value, client of yours who has sought your time, and this is a project that is kind of getting decided, right? Which level of conversation are you going to use?
More like a partnership, not. I mean, it's not going that I am going to win or anything or something. It's like a partnership. I know it's a very difficult conversation. I mean, my point was that what Harini was also explained that the conversation will be a very different one. It will be a very difficult conversation where you listen to the people rather than more speaking, more listen to the people and get their ideas or the things. But what happened in a scenario where people, as Yogesh was telling, the people are with a lot of experiences available, people which are having more knowledges, and then the too much of adding the things, but nobody is giving you a concrete solution for the things. So as a leader, how can you make this thing decision and how to make this conversation quicker or faster to a decision oriented? That's my ask for all the people here.
Yeah, and that requires you to demonstrate the finesse of conversational intelligence through the power of facilitation. Leaders are coaches. We have been teaching that program for a long time. We should also probably start teaching a program now called Leaders as Facilitators. How do leaders facilitate conversations? For example, how do we get the best thinking out in the group? What tools do we use? Now, for facilitators, it's a very simple tool to use, something called a gallery walk or a world cafe. Is that a tool that a leader uses to get the best thinking out of people, create more listening in the group, more sharing? So probably as a part of your leadership consulting repertoire, you need to have facilitation also as a key competency now.
Very nice. Super.
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm just broaching this. It's coming. Maybe I'm talking aloud. So Padma, you can weigh on in on the Yogesh. You guys are the doyens of facilitation. Yeah, I'm like.
No, I think fair. I think the whole idea, Ravi, what you're sharing is like there is so many options Satya has on his, for his use. It is just matter of picking up and trying to see which one would work. And Satya, sometimes I also keep recommending books in our programs, and I think Humble Consulting is one additional book that I think all of you should read, and it's a fantastic work by Edgar Sheen. And when you talk about asking people, being vulnerable, listening, it's a fantastic research on. He says that there are in his book there are too many case studies that he talks about real life, where I think leaders did not have to do much. They just had to listen. And the solutions came automatically from people. And the culture became so great that at some point, the leaders actually were now spending more time on creating a future rather than solving the day-to-day problem, which actually earlier were created by them only, not by anybody else. And then they realized, because as leaders, I think you give solution based on your experiences, but maybe the new generation has a much more innovative way to solve a problem. And Edgar says that the moment you get that experience, you start no longer giving any solution. You are just there to be, in the flow, and in the flow, things starts happening. So the pressure that people are taking unnecessarily slowly reduces, and the energy that is saved, or the time or bandwidth that is available, is now done for the well-being of people. So you can see the cycle turning around. So the more well-being you do, the more people are contributing. The more people contributing, the more you have time for well-being. So we have to cut that, the situation and turn it around for our viewer. And today's session, whatever Ravi and I shared, should help you to start really embarking. Like 1 hour is too less a time to even think about imparting any skills in the program. But we want to trigger a lot of, thinking. Like last month when we did the webinar on say being a talent multiplier, strategy to results, I kept getting a lot of replies from people that I think once they started looking at the framework, they had their own versions of solution they could create. So we want that to happen in every webinar that we want to run for you. And so I'll just take another maybe 5 minutes last question, and then we'll spend 5-10 minutes just giving you some little bit brief on what the work we do. So there's also a forum for us to share the work of Crossover. So tomorrow, if you like our work, you like Ravi, me facilitating, we can come and work for your organization. So Padma, last, if you can want to ask any question or share.
So I just wanted to share based on what Ravi said. If a HNI comes in a Merc to buy a Land Rover, the salesy person should just say, "Come in, sir," and shut his mouth and open his ears. That's it.
Very nice. Brilliant.
Right, that's it. And give the best brochure available, sir. Maybe you might want to take a look at this. That's it.
Yeah.
So Ravi, you can give Padma sir a virtual clap like the way we always do.
Absolutely, you're very correct.
So good, Ravi. So Ravi, I'll spend maybe 5-10 minutes just giving people a quick overview. And I really want to thank all of you for coming. And so here is one single slide I want to just share with you, that Crossover Leadership Journeys is a journey-based leadership program company. Like the name itself says, Crossover Leadership Journeys, which means we help leaders cross over the leadership challenges in a journey format. And what you're seeing on the screen here is 3 of our flagship programs. One is called as the Foundation Leaders Program, that is typically for associate level up to 7 or 8 years experience. Then we have got Emerging Leaders Program, which is for people with about 9 to 18 years experience. And then we have got Senior Leaders Program, which is for people above 18 years. And you can see these are the modules very nicely crafted for every level. So if you look at the Senior Leaders Program, Building Change Agility is our first module, because 64% of the change in the world fail not because of technology issue, but because of people issue. So a lot of leaders don't know how to manage change. And we have this fantastic framework by William Bridges used in the program. Yeah. Then we have this big picture thinking. You've got, strategy to result that you saw the webinar last month. Similarly, Emerging Leaders Program, we have got contextual leadership. We have got communication, humble inquiry, multiplier mindset. So these are all interesting topics for that level. So these are like the base leadership skills that we would like to, really share with all of you. So these are the 3, level programs that we want to. And you can see that these are like 6 months program. And what you're seeing below that is the mentoring part of it, which means that between the 2 months, there is a mentoring team. Harini is also one of our very senior mentors. So she would actually be also a mentor to the batch. And then we send an article, video, they apply the learning. Then they move to the next month. Now, Emerging Leaders Program is a program that we also offer in an open format, which means that you can nominate yourself, you can nominate 2 or 3 people. We actually club people from different companies to come together for the program. It's a fantastic way to also give exposure to your employees. Instead of doing an in-house program, they get the chance to meet people from different organizations. We've been running this for quite some time. So we have run 7 batches so far, and the next batch is scheduled to get launched in the month of April. So feel free to write to Karthik, Pooja Adhikari, Pooja Jain. There are a lot of people involved in this in this organizing team, so you can talk to them. Yeah. So this is like the broad view of the way we work. So we got another 5-10 minutes left. We can have any open questions. Anybody has anything that you would like to share? We also like to hear any topic that you would like to us to conduct in the webinar. So if you have anything that you want us to cover, please let us know. And this is going to be a monthly affair. So this is our 4th webinar under the banner called Leadership Chaska. And Chaska is not the addiction, but it is also as a meaning, an acronym for Crossover Hosted Association for Knowledge and Skills Advancement. So it is Chaska, is that Chaska. So this is a not for paid, it's a free webinar every month we do. And we promise to keep bringing in some very world-class research, very easy to use application of that. And we'd like to hear from you if there is any topic that you would like to cover in the next coming webinar, or any reflections, any thoughts on today's session. More than welcome to hear from you. We have 10 more minutes to go. And those who want to turn on their cameras, you can do for at least the last 10 minutes. So you can see
Yes. Please do so.
And it's okay even if you're not fully makeup, so. Me, Ravi, Harini, Karthik, we surely do our facial and all that, but you guys are okay to, yeah.
Yes, request you to just switch on your camera. So sometime at least I can take a great screenshot.
Yeah. Hi, Indrajit, how are you? Very rare to see Indrajit, very quiet today.
Hi. Hi, Yogesh.
Hi.
I've been listening on quite a few good inputs I received. And, one of the things I was wondering is, as leaders grow in their organizations, it becomes less and less obvious to get feedback, because people are just saying what what they think you want to hear. So I was wondering, what are some effective ways to get feedback from, people around you at all levels, to understand what is the difference between your reality and the reality that you create, which is perceived by the people you're working with.
So Indrajit, I have a very simple answer for that, and I literally implemented that. And Ashish has just turned on his camera. We both were at Wipro, so we had this. Wipro has this facility called skip meeting. Which means that you can actually ask your HR to have your team reportee come in an HR room for 45 minutes. First 15 minutes, they will share without knowing who spoke what on 3 things. What should you start doing? What should you stop doing? What should you continue doing? And then get the next, you come in as a leader inside the room, and the HR talks about that, and every HR in the world, if you go and request them, in 15 years, I guess maybe like me, there are a few leaders who would use this facility so beautifully. So it was like calendarized. You would know that my request is, don't wait for you to do it yourself, because you will always get into so much of operational work that you will actually not miss out on doing that. Put that on HR, or put that on the organization who actually is in some form a enabler for that, and let that be run like a regular routine, like the way we do customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. Do your own feedback also. It's so phenomenal. And there were times when I was like so tied up, but just that it is scheduled, and HR is saying that, hey Yogesh, the time has come for your 6 monthly skip. When can we do? And it just happens. And so nice that something that I saw always as my strength actually was creating a lot of problem for my team. So I then start making those changes. So this simple, and HR would love to do that because there are not many leaders who actually utilize their service with HR. So HR is always not seen, and they find such an insight inside the organization, because a lot of issues is not about me, it's about the system. So they are also learning from that feedback, because it's not about me, but it's about the system. So it's actually beneficial from both sides, So put in a routine for yourself. Let your HR, start chasing you for that, and it's very powerful. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Really appreciate that input.
Yeah, and HR would love that, and maybe I got more promotion because of the kind of skip that they did, because they could also show in their dashboard how many skips they did. Yeah, very nice. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Other, maybe you might also want to look at, so Indrajit, what happens is when there are significant changes in the team, right? And the team is experiencing changes. One is this regular cadence that Yogesh suggested, you do it as a matter of practice every 6 months. But also if there are significant changes that are happening, you have had 3 new people coming in, 2 new people going out, or 2 old people going out. That's a time for you to do an exercise like this as well. Right? You could also do an appreciative inquiry exercise. Ask the group, what do you think you guys are doing good? You guys are finding difficult? What do you want to do differently? And also give me feedback. What do you think as your leader? I'm doing good. I'm finding difficult to do. I should be doing differently. Maybe something as simple as that. And there are myriad tools, Indrajit, there are myriad tools, that you can use for these kind of purposes. But the point is, what Yogesh said is, get the voice on the table and let it count. So after that skip, the part that Yogesh did not really share was how well he acted on that feedback and created accountability mechanisms.
Right. Absolutely.
Don't know anything about the feedback. Next time, this same guy is not going to give you feedback.
Yes.
होता नहीं है यार, बोल के क्या मतलब है? विचार है, सुनता है, चला जाता है.
एकदम, बिल्कुल. And also, Ravi, one more thing, good that you said this. And so initially, Indrajit, I could see that visibly people were just coming and being there as part of the process. Okay, तो बोला ठीक है, अरे बोला है तो जाके आते, ठीक है. But after the 4th meeting, I vividly remember the number of items were going down, but the items that were coming were very powerful, because people started seeing that this is really, going to help us as a team. So it is not about Yogesh anymore. It is about we as a team. Because they feel that HR is there, Yogesh is listening. Whatever is that, come bring it on the table. And it is so surprising, Indrajit, sometimes they will only come up with their own solution. So it is feedback from me, but solution is from them only. So the whole point is that there is no need to take so much of load on yourself. There are people who are more brilliant, who are more capable. It's just that your role is to just be there, available to them. अगर कुछ करने का decision लेने का ले लो, but बाकी सब वो लोग करेंगे. Yeah. Very nice. So thanks, Indrajit. Hi, Ashish. How are you? Glad to. You're on mute. Still on mute. I think you'll have to.
Okay.
Yeah, Ashish.
Oh, I love your lecture, your talks, your webinars. I look forward to that. In fact, last month I think I was looking for it, but I couldn't see it, and then I realized I missed it or something.
No, it's yeah. No, actually, it's turning out to be very nice. I think every time we are seeing, like, we first started with 45 registration, then 60. Today we had 92 registrations. So.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of people they actually ask for the recording, which also they come back. So we are seeing the same people also coming again. So it's for me, and for some of our facilitators, Ravi, it's a joy to come and share so much of work that we do. Yeah. और थोड़ा इसी बहाने थोड़ा धंधा वंधा मिल जाता है, पब्लिक बुलाते हैं. So one of the webinars we got a session at Ingram Micro, and We got, and Karthik is our champion, who's really making note of who is asking what question, and then he'll go after them and say, "Aap active dikh rahe the, to chalo aapse baat karte hain." Yeah. So lot, I think, Ashish, lots going on in crossover, quite a new solutions coming up, deep research happening, and काफी मजा आ रहा है, because we have also now started to do our analysis of last 6 years application of learning by our participants. कि उन्होंने जिंदगी में क्या क्या किया है, and it is so fascinating. We are like 2,200 documents to be analyzed, and it's fascinating to see the way people have changed their lives. I mean, what more can we have that you get paid for helping people to change their lives? So
yeah, the satisfaction that you get is incredible.
Yeah, incredible.
Seeing some good change in somebody else because of what you have done.
Yes. And ये राधा और गोविंद का कहानी तो हर घर में एक बार तो हो ही जाता है, तो आई थिंक जैक एंड मेरी जैसा बनना है वो लॉन्ग रन में.
Yeah, but even I mean this Radha's kahani, it depends a lot on the situation. I mean, the special day, especially this thing, and she's looking at the prospect of everything going wrong. It becomes very tense for anyone.
Yes.
Anyway, one should always try and find a win-win situation for everybody.
Yes. But yeah, in fact, we did not cover much on the health part, but in fact, Ravi also talked about a little bit about well-being, but there is so much to do with health, the way we think, and it is very important that people start thinking. In fact, जो एक Ravi is the master on this William Bridges का framework, तो उसमें हम लोग हमेशा शादी का बोलते हैं कि like how the newly wed bride, if she's not adjusted well in the new home, how it impacts the entire relationship, and the way thinking starts impacts their health also. It's like a vicious circle.
Yep. हम शादी की बात करते हैं, पहले 3 महीने की बात करते हैं. माइकल वॉटकिंस साहब उसी को फर्स्ट 90 डेज की बात करते हैं, अलग तरीके.
Yes.
बट बात तो वही है ना पद्मा सर?
Yes, absolutely. चलो बढ़िया. So good. So we are at 5:30. 2 minutes to go. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and we look forward to having you in our next month's webinar. We also got some recommendation suggestions from people.
Yeah, we got some good ones.
So we got. I mean,
the second one is a stellar one, Yogesh. How to work and collaborate with different cross-functional teams with conflicting priorities.
Yes.
Just for, I mean, and we should not leave a chance when you get a chance.
Ekdam.
We have created a very good solution which we are proposing to a lot of our clients and seen great demand in larger organizations, called managing or leading in a matrix. And so for example, how does finance and say an HR and operations work together, with each one of them having their own priorities, and sometimes those priorities do not talk to each other as well as they should. So how do we kind of bring about a higher purpose, higher calling of the organization, and allow them to see this, that how their goals are actually derived from there, and it all happens within the ambit of conversational intelligence. So that is a very important element that again gets played out, right? So we have created.
There's a beautiful documentary on Netflix called Boeing. And
yes, I have been saying yes.
Wonderful, actually. Illustrates everything that you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Highly recommended watch.
Highly recommended.
Sure, just repeat the name of the documentary once again.
Boeing.
बहुत बढ़िया. चलो, thank you. So thank you everybody. We are 5:30. Thank you Ravi. Thank you Harini. Thank you everybody. Thank you Karthik for driving so beautifully. Pooja Jain, Ankita Raj, I think Parul, everybody. I think Nikita. सभी ने बढ़िया हो गया. चलो, thanks Ravi. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Ravi, all the best for day 2.
Thank you sir.
Okay, चलो, bye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank Martin. Yeah, thank you so much.
It's really good, really interesting. Some really
Yeah, very interesting concept, Martin.
Yeah, it is, and I'm very paramount. Very paramount.
Yes,
Thank you very
yes.
much for your time. Really
Sure,
appreciate
sure.
being invited. Bye for now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you.
Bye. Hi, Arini Akbar. I think we have Pooja here. I think, yeah. So
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Pooja. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. The
I'll
session
just
went well.
stop the recording, yeah, and then.
Yeah.